in collaboration with Telangana State Biodiversity Board. This webinar is planned to commemorate the World Wetlands Day that is celebrated each year on 2nd February to raise awareness about wetlands. This day also marks the anniversary of the Convention on Wetlands, which was adopted as an international treaty in 1971. The theme for this year's celebration is Wetlands Action for People and Nature. Protection of environment is everyone's responsibility, and to follow a sustainable approach towards life, nature, ecology, and environment is the need of the hour. So this webinar on this day of 2nd February has a lot of significance, and it's a small step towards getting awareness about safeguarding wetlands. To deliver their knowledge to us, we have expert speakers who have joined us today, and we are very thankful to the Telangana State Biodiversity Board, who has also joined us and supported us in conducting this program. To begin the formal session, I request the convener of Greenbelt of University College for Women and the head department of Botany, Dr. Sushma Madam, to give her welcome address.
Good morning, one and all. A warm welcome to the national webinar on the occasion of Wetland Day, organized under Greenbelt program of University College for Women in collaboration with Telangana State Biodiversity Board. As we all know that wetlands play a critical role in maintaining natural cycles, support biodiversity, provide food sources. They act as saviors against natural disasters like floods, drought, etc., protecting our coastlines against climate change. In spite of its importance, because of urbanization, there is dwindling. Conservation of these fragile ecosystems should be our utmost priority. We are privileged to be associated with Telangana State Biodiversity Board, especially grateful to the Secretary Sri Kalicharan Garu IAS to kindly accept our invitation to participate. We welcome you, sir. To make us aware about wetlands and its conservation, we have with us the expert speakers, Dr. A.V.V.S. Swami, HOD, Department of Environmental Studies, and Dr. P. Brahmaji Rao, Chairman, Board of Studies from Nagarjuna University. A very warm welcome to you, sir. It is my honor to welcome our beloved principal, Professor Vijulata Madam, who always inspire us to take up the activities in the direction of environmental protection. Under her stewardship and unflagging support, Greenbelt is able to restore and conserve natural resources of campus. I also welcome Vice Principal Dr. B. Shailaja Madam for being part of this event. On the outset, I welcome one and all delegates and participants from various walks of life, even other than the sciences group. We hope this webinar will generate sort of awareness and help us in the direction of conservation.
Thank you, Sushma ma'am. Thank you for taking this initiative and organizing this program and creating awareness to all of us. Thank you so much. I now request our Vice Principal, Dr. B. Shailaja Madam, to address the participants.
Thank you, Jyoti ma'am. Respected Principal ma'am, Professor M. Vijulata madam. Today's chief guest, Sri Kalicharan sir, IAS, Telangana State Biodiversity Board. Convener for this program, Dr. Sushma madam. Speakers for today's session, Dr. A.V.V.S. Swami sir and Dr. P. Brahmaji Rao sir. Co-conveners, Sai Bhavani ma'am and Mehtab Yasmin madam. Organizing Committee of Greenbelt, Rupashri madam, Jyoti madam, Hazira Sana ma'am, Rohini madam and Prabhakar sir. A warm welcome to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank Sushma Madam and all the organizing committee of Greenbelt to make me a part of this program, because I think this is the need of the hour. I've seen the brochure, and being a non-sciences background faculty, I feel it is very, very important to conserve the wetland. Here, some reports are telling that around 64% of the world wetland has been disappeared. So, I feel that whatever is there, at least that we have to protect it. We cannot get the new ones. If at all we are able to, that will take time. So, at least what we are having in our scope, that we should try to do it. So, I congratulate all the team for taking up this initiative. I welcome all the participants and delegates from the on behalf of University College for Women Koti, and I am very confident that this webinar will bring fruitful inputs for the conversation of wetlands. Thank you one and all for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shailaja ma'am. As you rightly said, it is the time that we safeguard our environment, and sustainability or justice is not just for our generation, it is also to hand over something to the future generations. Thank you, ma'am. I request, I wish to know if Kali Charan sir is available with us in the meet. Shri Kali Charan sir, Secretary, Telangana State Biodiversity Board. Sir might be joining us a little late. And also our principal ma'am will also join us a little later. So we will now begin with the first technical session. I hand over it to Dr. Sai Bhavani to introduce the speaker for the first technical session and take the program ahead.
Good morning, all. I welcome you all on this special occasion of National Webinar on Wetland Conservation. Dr. AVVS Swami sir is the head Department of Environmental Sciences, Acharya Nagarjuna University. Sir is a member of AP Pollution Control Board and APCRDA Social Impact Assessment Review Committee. Sir has also worked on several chapters in international books like Springer, and also have done extensive research work in ecological studies for management and conservation of saurian in Eastern Ghats. And other areas of research interest are environmental management, air pollution, bioremediation, and wildlife conservation. And sir has published more than 100 research papers, and he is an active participant of many extension activities. And many PhDs and MPhils are awarded under sir's guidance. Sir, I welcome you for this session and hand over the session to you, sir. Please take over. Swami, sir?
మార్నింగ్ అని చెప్పాను. ఇది తీసేయండి, మూసుకో. వాయిస్. హలో హలో హలో, am I audible? భవానీ గారు.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. You are audible.
భవానీ గారు కొద్దిగా పవర్ పాయింట్ అక్కడ ఎవరినన్నా రన్ చేయమని చెప్తారా? మీరే షేర్ చేయాలి.
చెప్తాను సార్.
మీరే షేర్ చేయాలి.
Just 5 minutes excuse, sir. Conference sir join అవుతున్నారు. He'll address us, then we'll start the presentation.
Hello. Hello.
హలో.
May I now request Sri Kalicharan Garu, IAS. Hello.
Ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. Hello.
Till he joins, you can show the video which I have shared with madam today's this wetland. Till he joins,
ma'am.
give me
Yeah,
5
okay, ma'am.
minutes.
Fine. Share the video.
Yeah, sir is joining Sushma madam, so you can check his name in the participant list and invite him.
Okay,
He's
ma'am.
joining.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Hello.
Ma'am, Kalicharan sir has joined. Can we pause
Yeah,
the
that is
video
what.
after his talk?
That is what. Hello. May I now request Sri Kalicharan Garu to speak on the occasion.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone, and greetings on the occasion of World Wetlands Day 2022. This unique day, which we all celebrate globally on 2nd of February, is to raise the awareness about wetlands. This day also marks the anniversary of the Convention on Wetlands, which was adopted as an international treaty in 1971. Every year, this day is celebrated with one unique theme, and the theme for this year is Wetlands Action for People and Nature. Wetlands, as we all know, are among the most productive ecosystems in the world, comparable to rainforest and coral reefs. Wetlands can be thought of as biological supermarkets. They provide great volumes of food that attract many animal species. These animals use wetlands for part of or all of their life cycle. They also act as water purification, groundwater replenishment. Wetlands attract people for recreation. It gives livelihood to millions and millions of people, and it also absorbs carbon. So in short, wetlands are of utmost importance to protect and conserve the ecosystem, biodiversity in general, and in short, entire humanity. Because more than 70% of this earth is composed of water. Our wetlands are under threat due to several reasons like habitat degradation, polluted flow, water level changes, urbanization, land-based industrial outfalls, as well as dumping of tile industry waste disposal by intense aquaculture and its waste, industries and agricultural activities along the catchment area, unsustainable kind of developmental activities, and obviously climate change. So all these things makes our wetland a very sensitive commodity, and it is right occasion that we all should come together and pledge that yes, wetlands are utmost important for our own existence, and we all should protect it. To conserve our wetlands, we need to create awareness among the people about wetland conservation, explore the importance of wetlands, avoid garbage discharge in wetlands, control of industrial activities and their commercial exploitation. Most importantly, we need to implement sustainable wetland management strategies, which in detail I think our speakers will tell you and share with you today. In our state, Telangana State Biodiversity Board is very actively creating awareness. As you can see that today's activity is one of the part of that. And we were able to declare Aminpur Lake as our biodiversity heritage site, which is a wetland, a prominent wetland in state of Telangana. And now it is protected and it is already notified by the state government. And many such wetlands, we are actually under our scrutiny. Many NGOs like Dhruvansh, they are doing excellent work in this. And we feel that we should collaborate with many such proactive NGOs who are dedicated to the cause of conservation of wetlands in Hyderabad and in state of Telangana. So on this very occasion, I would like to congratulate each and everyone, and I invite all of you to join hands with Telangana State Biodiversity Board for the cause of conservation of wetlands and conservation of our biodiversity. I wish you everyone a great day ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your kind words, sir, and thank you for your collaboration and supporting us in conducting this webinar. Sushma ma'am, any remarks you wish to make here?
Hello.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Sir, thank you. Thank you very much for your participation and the support rendered by the Biodiversity Board, sir. We will be together in conserving our natural resources. And we are just waiting for the principal madam to join. After that, what we feel is if we have lecture session, it would be better. We are just waiting for our madam to join. Meanwhile, we will run the video, and afterwards we will have the sessions. Is it
Thank you,
okay?
ma'am. I think I should, I should take leave now.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and I wish you a very fruitful day ahead.
Yes.
Thank
Sir.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
sir.
Still not coming.
Ma'am, no audio.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Shilpi ma'am.
Now I request Swami sir to take over the session. Swami sir.
Hello? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
So I am Dr. Swami, Department of Environmental Science, Nagarjuna University. Now, I am very happy to meet you all through this webinar on the World's Wetland Day. And I thank the Principal of University College for Women, Vidyulata Garu, and the Vice Principal Shailaja Madam, and Head of the Botany Department, Shushma Garu, and the Mehtab Yasmin and Sai Bhavani for organizing this wonderful seminar in a befitting manner. So I am very happy to participate, happy to be one among you on this very auspicious day. So nowadays, the awareness on environmental activities is very high, and almost all the types of ecosystems are covered under various programs. Say exactly 5 decades ago, sometime 1971, in Iran, there was a convention. There was a convention on the wetlands. Convention on the wetlands. So these deliberations have gone for about 150 countries have taken part, and all these deliberations were resolved into various things, and finally they came into force from 1975. Since then, we have been conducting the World's Wetlands Day on February 2nd. And the conference was held at Ramsar, Iran. And this has taken a lead in identifying the best, most threatened, and the best wetlands with good biodiversity, productivity, and there are certain criteria, parameters for selecting these wetlands for protection. So we have one such a thing is in our India. Also we have some Ramsar sites, and next please, next. Yes, here, now before going to the actual the distribution, compositions and all, we now let us examine what is a wetland. What is a wetland? And we have the rivers, we have the oceans with us, and we have so many things. The biggest water bodies like Lake Baikal in Russia, and Wisconsin in United States, and Kulleru, Pakal, and so many lakes formed naturally. And now, what is a wetland? Wetland is a place where the surface water is connected to the groundwater. So there is a continuous column from the surface of the earth to the groundwater aquifers. So this is what is called the wetland. And these wetlands, they are not continuous bodies, because where there is accessibility only, the groundwater can combine with, form a link with surface waters. The surface waters have the capillary connection with the ground, and very rarely at very certain places depending on the rock formation, the sand types, and the availability of water. So these wetlands, they are classified as perennial, seasonal, so like that. So there is no rule, hard and fast rule for these wetlands to be continuous for all the 12 months in a year, or for years together. So that is why, leaving away lakes, bogs, and other things, these wetlands are very few. They are identified, but their productivity is never underestimated in the world. All the scientists, botanists, zoologists, everyone has a good access to these wetlands. And one I want to, before going to the technical part of it, one I want to show you the what we call this. Here you are looking at a footstep. So just as in case of energy, in case of the carbon, and also maintaining the carrying capacity of various ecosystems, here also these wetlands are estimated for their productivity. and the commitment or irretrievable and irrevocable stature commitment of this wetlands is estimated to be the footprints. The most popular among the footprints is the carbon footprint because of, by selecting the activities and the carbon dioxide that is generated from each activity is called a footprint. So here also, by estimating their biomass and the biodiversity composition of this wetlands, some of the scientists have tried to estimate the footprint we made on this important ecosystem, the wetland ecosystem. Say, here, yes, next please. See, if you try to systematically define the areas where a water table is at near or just above the surface, so where soils are water saturated for a sufficient length of time. This is what I told you. This is given in the form of a definition. Say the groundwater is now connected with the surface waters, so with intercapillary water columns and sufficient length. That means it is not a temporary link. It is a permanent, maybe 10 months or 9 months, depending on the total availability of the water and the type of soil in that area and the rock formations, the permeability of the aquifers. All these things decides the life of this, what we call the wetland. Whether it is permanent or temporary. So most of you are maybe aware of that. Say these water columns in the water in the underground layers, soil layers is available in the form of an aquifer. So when there is no interruption to this flow of water, either vertically the rise and horizontally. So this is when it is not interrupted, we call it a unconfined aquifer. And the water availability in the ground, when it is confined, when it is obstructed by two impermeable layers, we call that aquifer as an unconfined aquifer, confined by two impermeable layers. Maybe the rock, in general terms, maybe the rock. So it is the impermeability of the soils formations that decide the life or type of this wetland. And also the quantity of water that is available is also decided by the permeability of the soil layers. So sometimes we may get the water as equal to the surface lakes, and sometimes we may get almost the land may get dried up because of the drainage facility that is available in the natural available in the soil. So the drainage facility in the soil layers also decides the life and type of these wetlands. So that is why, like leaving away the rivers, the large lakes and the oceans, bays, all these things, we have classified certain water bodies where they are bounded by many variables, So they are placed as a separate category as the wetlands, separate category as wetlands. So, and in the given as such that the excess water or the is resulting low soil oxygen levels are principal determinants of vegetation. Why this is low oxygen levels? Because this water, here the water is shallow. In other, when compared to the lakes and other water bodies, we now use only wetlands, confine as ourselves is to wetlands. So these wetlands are because this very shallow water levels, the oxygen availability also is limited, and the soil that is, there are certain specific things because these water wetlands, they do not flow on their own. They do not flow on their own. So whatever the organic matter that we dump in the wetlands, they remain there, they degrade there, they decay and degrade and form into the peats. Just not like that our sedimentation in the lakes and river systems. Here, the sediments constitute the peat. That means we can say in mineral terms, we can say it is an incompletely formed coal, an incompletely formed layer, peat layer that is rich in organic content. Say, for example, for the knowledge of the students, if anybody is there, say beneath a tree, that means at the bottom of a tree in a trees in a forest, the soil layer contains 3 types of leaves, shredded leaves. Deciduous plants leave their the canopy, and the leaves are shed by the deciduous trees, and these layers of leaves will have 3 distinct layers. The litter is a best habitat in the world with almost powdered leaves and half broken leaves and almost dried and ready to break stages of these leaves. So these 3 stages of the leaves before finally forming into the peat, say it acts as a wonderful habitat. So you can, if you go to near to the soil in these deciduous areas, you will find the larvae, so many insect larvae, not even 1 or 2, so several tens of species allow their larvae to grow in the peat, and the half broken leaves and also the the leaves are ready to break also support some of the juveniles of these insects, which cannot compete with the larger animals of the same ecosystem. So it is an ecosystem. The litter layer itself is an ecosystem, and though for the elderly people, so they will they can easily identify it is the ecological niche. The litter layer of this forms an ecological niche where the food, shelter, and the breeding grounds are provided by these litter layers. So that is why, in order to so the animals to share the resources, they will find suitable places like the deepest layer, middle layer, top layer, and suitable timings. So they separate themselves to have their share in the resource, basing on the time. The larger animals have the choice, and the smaller ones have to go when there is no competition for selecting the food. And there is the trophic levels, I mean the food types, the prey species availability. The larger animals have always their share, I mean the choice of selecting the prey species, whereas smaller ones have to select the other ones. Because say a type of this prevails in all the organisms in any ecosystem, maybe the fish, maybe the birds, or any other things. So the resources are shared by these organisms by the time, by the prey size, and also the activities. So the some of the animals which have the choice, they may feed whenever they want. And some of the organisms, they may divide their period of activity into two parts, the morning and afternoon, evening, like that, bimodal, trimodal, like that. So this ecosystem provides food, shelter, and breeding grounds to all the organisms. And the limited resources are shared by all these organisms based on that is what we refer to as the next slide, please. What we refer to as the ecological niche, that is the functional role played by the organism in the ecosystem. So you have hundreds of species available in take any water body or any other thing. And in the water body, we all know, say we have the plants, and unfortunately, the plants are given top priority in all the activities. Definitely they there, and little is known about the other organisms. Say here in the in any water body, we have the plankton, zooplankton, and phytoplankton. Planktons are the floating organisms within do not have the individual locomotor organs. And the wetland productivity is dependent on the abundance of what we call the phytoplankton and zooplankton. And the organisms, microorganisms that that float on the surface. So most of you know about the surface nature of this thing. Say the surface of any water body, wetland will have certain surface tension. So if you put your finger in a water body, in a glass of water, say if you bring out your finger, a few drops of water will come along with your finger. So that property is explained as the surface tension. And this surface tension is an excellent ecosystem. It is a specific ecological niche in any water body, where hundreds and thousands of zooplankton are available. So of course, phytoplankton are also. So this is an ecosystem by itself. The layer that is surface layer that is formed by the surface tension of the water itself is an ecosystem. So the Ramsar Convention is very specific is a broad definition of wetlands, including swamps. We can see it in the coastal regions, marshes, the lakes and rivers, wet grasslands, the peatlands. There are vast expanses of in the islands. We can see these peatlands. nearby islands, and also the rainforests like Amazon and places in northeastern hill states and also in Kerala. So we can see these peatlands where they, just now I told you about the rich in organic content. Almost it can be treated as the incompletely formed coal in the forest. And the oases, you all know, in the deserts, in the estuaries, where the rivers merge with the sea, and the deltas, and the tidal, the near shore marine areas, all these things are like that. And the coral reefs. Coral reefs, of course, they are very famous in Australia and our Lakshadweep. The coral reefs are very famous. And I wanted to tell you about the deltas. Wetlands are very common in the delta areas, because these deltas are formed where the river almost enters into the death phase before emptying into the oceans. Say any river you take, for example, at Godavari Delta, Godavari passes through so many western Ghats and very high altitude hill ranges and all that, and enters into the open land, flat areas near Dhavaleshwaram at Rajahmundry. And from where the flow rate or the speed of the river decreases drastically. It's almost, it is flowing on a plateau. So like that, these deltas, they encourage, that is the most favorable area for the formation of the wetlands. So such areas where the water is now dispersed, some of the water is left in the small ditches formed by these sand accumulations. So deltas are the most favorable places for the formation of these wetlands. And also the different types of things, and the salt pans. And wetlands exist in every country in the world, in every climatic zone, right from the polar regions to the tropics. So it is not just by definition itself, as I told you since the beginning, the top surface layer and the subsurface layer. That means the aquifer, they both are connected in a wetland. Yes, next please. So the Ramsar Convention definitions, these wetlands. See. So am I audible to the, please? Ah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not audible, sir. Little loud, sir.
Madam, I am not speaking anything now. Just I
Yeah, no. Yes, sir, you are
restart.
audible.
Yes. I restart. So, there are two important articles in the Ramsar Convention. Without the mentioning the name of this Ramsar Convention, no lecture is complete. So that is the greatness, and the Ramsar also is an important, remarkable site that is located in Iran. So by the country itself, we can say the importance of this is a part of the wetlands are also available in the deserts. The wetlands are areas of marsh, fen, peatland, and whether natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh or brackish water. This is all I told you. And the Article 2.1 in the Wetlands Convention may incorporate the riparian or the coastal zones. Riparian means where the river, the zone in the course of a river where the river flow stops. So most of the time only the sand is exposed in that areas. So there also we find very important plant species, and broken streams and ditches. We find several seasonal zooplankton and phytoplankton. So like crustaceans, raccoferans, opipods, and all. And the riparian and coastal zones adjacent to the wetlands. And those who have seen the mangrove forests, they are the best places. You can see the aerial roots coming out from the uh, soil. So the roots of Abyssinia, Rhacophorus, like that. Say we can find the aerobic. The roots growing in a reverse manner. Instead of going deep into the soil, the roots they come out of this water column, and they provide oxygen to the plants. In the mangrove areas, it is very common vision, and that is the best place where these aerial roots are seen. Say, the definition, the variables that are given in the definition can be seen in these marsh areas like Nizampatnam, Pichavaram, and the Sundarbans, Koringa, and Pichavaram in Nagapatnam in Tamil Nadu. In all these places, we can find the typical wetland characteristics. Next slide, please. So these are the
Sir, your voice is not audible.
Okay, I'll repeat. The marsh areas. Now am I audible?
Yes,
Am
sir.
I audible, sir? Okay. Okay. So these marshes, they are the extensions of the near water bodies. Say this Machkand reservoir. Once it is a man-made reservoir, sometime built in 70s. So once this reservoir is completed, say the nearby agricultural lands are converted into almost the wetlands. They have become waterlogged. The surface of agricultural lands are covered in a depth of 5 to 6 centimeters water column. So it is the impact of what we call the reservoir built up. This is a man-made reservoir, man-made marshes, man-made wetlands. So such impacts are also there. Several examples are there in our country and also in many. So just I told you, in the mangrove areas you will find a small plant-like what we call the plant-like structures coming out from the water, soil to the, just like also they grow like herbs. But they are not herbs. They are the aerial roots of the mangrove forests. And the trees, Avicennia rhacophora, Avicennia alba, like that. And also the desert oasis. So all these they form into the peat swampy forests. So these are the backwater canals and the river deltas. Just I told you the example. Before emptying into the sea, the water of a river flows to a certain distance in the plains, in the flat beds of the sand. So where they remain, say like this. And next slide, please. Yes, why are the wetlands are so important? Why we are talking of, we are celebrating a day? Because human relations are eroding. We are celebrating Mother's Day, Father's Day. So just like that, we have given a day for tigers, for so many birds, plants, important plants and all. Similarly, so one of the very, very important and so far ignored in the wetlands is the wetland. So why it is so important? So we have lake protection programs and also the several so wetlands are the cradles of the biological diversity. So why these are called cradles? Say this may move to the bottom or may rise above the normal level. Like this, the water column either percolates into the bottom or it may rise to the above the normal level. So like that it is moving from, it is kept moving. And also similarly, on the surface of this earth, the near mangrove areas we find the entry of river waters and also the obstruction by the tides. So there is a zone that is formed with the action of these two, the river and the tides. So that zones are called as the cradles. So these cradles, in particular mangrove areas, these cradles of this thing is favorable for the hatching of so many brackish water organisms. Even your Penis monodon, Penis, and so many crustaceans, crabs, lobsters, and all these things, only because of this friction between the wave action and the river flow and the river flow. The similar kind of things also happens here. It is vertical. In the mangrove areas, it is horizontal. This friction is generated horizontally, whereas in the wetlands, this is the movement is vertical, vertical, either percolation or into the swelling into the surface of this earth. And these cradles of biological diversity, providing water and providing habitat. Habitat, we know habitat is a place where the food, shelter, and breeding grounds, the roti, kapada, or makan, like that. That is can be called as the habitat. And the species of plants and animals. Here also we find, just as in any aquatic ecosystem, we find submerged plants, floating plants, and rooted plants. Rooted plants. Next, another important function of this wetlands is wetlands perform vital ecological functions. Just I told you one example. It provides the ecological niche, trophic levels. We can see all the trophic levels in any food chain. And it provides water purification, because this contains coarse sand, fine sand, salt, the silt, all the types of soils. And as the water percolates inside, it becomes it is excellently purified by the nature. This way also we can call it as the water purification center. Water purification, water storage, storm protection, flood mitigation, and here flood mitigation involves the mitigation of the acceleration of the flood. So because already water column is there, even water comes with high acceleration. Say this will be immediately mitigated, and the intensity of the flood damage gets reduced. And the storeline stabilization, erosion control, and all these things, which have, if you transform the value of this, say flood mitigation, the groundwater recharge, erosion control, and all these things, if you monetize the value of these wetlands, services rendered by these wetlands, it will run into millions of rupees per year from each wetland. So put together, about it is said somewhere about 24% of the water bodies on the surface, they are wetlands. So put together, if calculate, that runs into trillions of rupees. So that is the excellent services rendered by the wetlands. And wetlands provide tremendous economic benefits in terms of including water supply, the fisheries, the support fisheries, agricultural, through the maintenance of water. This is, you can see, take Bangladesh as an example. Bangladesh, for example, half of the Bangladesh is inundated always. It is a waterlogged country, we can say. And agriculture is carried out in the waterlogged agricultural fields. Norman Borlaug, who hails from Bangladesh, also he has invented special techniques for agricultural production, increasing the agricultural production in the wetlands, submerged lands, waterlogged conditions. Say these waterlogged conditions, they normally the fishes are grown, It is a polyculture. Taiwan and many island countries, these techniques are available. Agriculture and paddy as well as the fish, both are grown in the same unit of land. Sometimes crabs are also grown along with the some paddy crops, food crops. So the prawns, crabs, and fishes all are grown in the same unit of land, and because the land availability, particularly in the island countries, it is very limited. So unless you utilize the potential of wetlands, so it is impossible to feed them. So wetlands now, especially religious and spiritual value, serving as a source of aesthetic and artistic inspiration and supporting local socio-economic and cultural traditions. So wetlands, they are also aesthetic. So we enjoy looking at, so aesthetics, the word aesthetics costs millions and billions of rupees. There several trillions are made every year in the world in the name of aquatic tourism, aquatourism places. So these are next slide, please.
Sir, not audible, sir.
Hello.
Sound is audible, sir, please.
There may be signal problem because I am using.
I think your phone is closer.
No, it's not the phone. It is the laptop I am using.
Sir, you're clear and audible, sir. Any participants who have an issue, please restart your meet. Sir is quite clear and audible. Sir, please go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Here is one important at a place of called Arizona. So where the aqua tourism is a very important. You see, the tip next slide. The wetlands, a very important tourist spots, and just I will go classify these services rendered by the wetland ecosystems. So just as we classify the values of different biodiversity in any theory part, so similarly we are also say the provisioning food, fresh waters, the fiber, fuel, biochemical, and also the genetic materials, and also they regulate the climatic regulation by evapotranspiration, by what we call the recycling of nutrients in the waterlogged areas, and the regulation of water purification, just we have seen, and water regulation and hydrological flows, water regulation. That means its main flow, drainage of this wetlands depends on the drainage in the subsurface, and that means the aquifer. Aquifer drainage is directly linked to the flow of what we call the wetlands. So erosion is regulated, all these things we have just seen, and pollution. If any industrial effluent is added to the wetlands, it is very difficult to say treat that water. And because it is not an organized ecosystem, So most of the places it is not systematically used, just as in case of the Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, if any contamination appears also, this will be eradicated and its impact will be minimized by the practice of agriculture and pisciculture, fish culture. Yes. And here in the normally ignored wetlands, if some pollution is added, it is very difficult to remove this. And cultural aspects also, the spiritual and inspirational, recreational, aesthetic, and educational purpose. So all these things also have all the values as we defined in case of biodiversity. The wetlands are none to none to any other thing. It is second to none. It is second to none in rendering the ecological services. And that also it supports soil formation and nutrient recycling. So also it can be compared to any other ecosystems on the land, aquatic ecosystem, the forest ecosystem. Next slide, please. Any aquatic ecosystem, the forest ecosystem, and also we see several the food chains, as we see in case of a forest, the different trophic levels. So for 5-6 trophic levels form a food chain in the wetland ecosystem. And also similarly, we find the, as I told you, the biodiversity also is very high, very considerable. And the diversity also is very high in the wetland. It is second to none in any river or the oceans. So a good food web also you can identify here. We can identify just as it is present in any kind of the water column, the river, canal, or any other thing. And they are the natural filters here. Threats to wetland. So let us examine. Next slide, please. Let us see why these should be protected and what are the threats to these naturally formed wetlands. So, of course, the man-made wetlands are different. Man-made wetlands are also there. But since these are older than even humans, Homo sapiens, older than Homo sapiens. So there is a necessity for maintaining these ecosystems. So what are the threats? Filling, ditching, draining of wetlands, and also some of the mining, vast expansions of mining also makes some of the wetlands, small units of wetland disappear from that area. So the commercial development, housing and construction of ports, national highways, airports. In airports, what actually takes place is in airports, the bird activity is the major threat to the flights. So one small bird, if it fits into the engines, the flight is gone. The loss will be nearly 1 crore, not less than 1 crore. So it is a fundamental rule to close all the wetlands nearby the airports. So the development, if it includes airports, it's a major threat to them. Just similarly, they displace the local aquatic fauna and flora and alter the water flow, quantity, the quality, and disrupt the overall wetland ecosystem functionally. So this invasive process, because of this man-made activities, say there is a biological invasion, or the invasion of one natural resource over the other. Just like the warfare in the earlier Zamana, the earlier history, medieval histories. So there is an invasion. The invasion is another threat to the thing. So most of the migratory birds, like what we call in Rajasthan, we have the great Indian bustards. The great Indian bustards. Their habitat itself is the wetland. It's a wetland. And all these wetlands, they are places to the migratory birds. Migratory birds. So all these things will be lost. And excessive withdrawal of water from the wetlands for agriculture. So that is happening in case of Bangladesh, just I told you. And pollution from the sediments, fertilizer, human sewage, and animal waste. All these things. The pollution from the sediments. And the climate change. Climate change is causing some wetlands to disappear under the rising sea levels. So even now, the vast expanses of Sundarbans, they are experiencing the impacts of climate change. Some of the areas, some of the wetlands, they are just slowly submerged and mingling with the Bay of Bengal. So several such things in the island nations. Island nations, we have scores of examples. And the construction of dam impedes water flow and replenishment of wetlands. So this construction of dams, just I told you the example of Machkand Reservoir, increasing the water level in the nearby agricultural lands. So they will increase. So agricultural lands which are traditional are now converted into waterlogged areas. Now, say the dumping of urban waste, urban solid waste, otherwise the industrial and municipal solid wastes, they are now became a major threat to all the wetlands. So in Gujarat, there were cases even filed. The areas of Ran of Kutch and Ratlam case, one of the is very important in case of environmental solid waste disposals. All these things, they have become threat to the what we call the wetlands. So what we can do to prevent these things? So be careful when using chemicals for cleaning, gardening, and other outdoor activities. Say in the United States, if a tree dies in your neighborhood, you will be penalized. You should pay for maintenance of this neighborhood vegetation. So they collect every month. They collect about $800 to $1,000 depending on the areas. So these threats, in order to maintain this green belt, what they do is they spray the pesticides, they use fertilizers, and do all the nonsense, we can say, in the name of maintaining the neighborhood. All such things, if happen near the wetlands, the rainwater naturally drains into these wetlands and becomes a threat to the wetlands. And the three strategies we can do, that is the reduce, reuse, and recycle. So less trash and less trash in the environment means that less trash will end up in the wildlife habitats. And this trash, we see so many examples. The birds are eating the plastic along with the organic material. And people are supposed to learn more about the wetlands and take a trip to see the wetlands, enjoy the wetlands, and also make an short-term ecosystem studies. And one such place near Visakhapatnam is Kondakarla Ava, which possesses both marshy characteristics. It is a wetland, and also it has a connection with the perennial lake near Anakapalli. So all these things you have to observe, and the students should be made aware of the natural systems available. So here this simultaneously you can see the, if a single next slide please. Here next you come to the last one. Yes, here say single species domination, which is not a welcome step in the wild. So in the wild, so finally you live together with the plants, animals, and all the natural resources. That is the principle of this thing. And it's a beautiful paradise. A beautiful paradise. The next slide, please. So here the birds are enjoying the natural habitat. And also the lakes like Kolleru, Pulikat, Chilka, and all these things are known for the migratory birds. Like this is here, what you are seeing is the pelicans. And in the Pulikat Lake, there is one festival that is conducted by the tourism department by name the Pelican Festival. So like that, we have, as a part of our nature, we have the wetlands, which are not given due importance as we give it to the lakes and ponds. So this wetlands definitely has created awareness over the last 50 years. Since the Ramsar Convention. So still a lot is to be done, and the local groups, the biodiversity groups can be organized to protect these things. And also, so we need to work to prevent the entry of any other foreign material into the wetlands. So with this, I close my lecture. So I thank the authorities of the University Women's College for giving me this opportunity, and also particularly the audience who paid interest in showing, in hearing this kind of thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Swami sir, your talk was literally very enlightening to all the audience. You enlightened us regarding the wetlands, their uses and their advantages, and how to protect them for the future generations. Thank you, sir. Any queries? You can ask the questions. Any queries?
Bhavani madam, there is one query posted in the chat box by Jayanti Shrikant. You can please read out it.
Sir, here is a question. Jayanti Shrikant is asking whether the conservation of wetlands is covered in EP and Biodiversity Conservation Act.
Yes, biodiversity is also giving importance to the wetlands, marshy lands, all this, it's a part of it. But more generally, if we mention biodiversity, it gives only priority to the plants, and the people who are well versed in this subject, they can understand the mangroves are also a part of it, and wetlands are also a special part of it. It includes everything. The biodiversity conservation includes wetland conservation.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our next speaker, Dr. Brahmaji Rao, to take over the session. And before that, I request Mehtab Yasmin to introduce our next speaker to the audience. Mehtab, please.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. It's my privilege
Mehtab
to
ma'am,
introduce.
I think some participants have a query. Somebody was unmuting themselves. Any
we'll keep
questions? I request the participants to please post in the chat box. At the end of the session, we will discuss.
Right.
Please go ahead, Mehtab.
Yes. I once again welcome all the speakers. I'm privileged to introduce our next eminent speaker, Dr. P. Brahmaji Rao, who is also an associate professor at Acharya Nagarjuna University. Sir, also holding the post of chairman, Board of Studies, Environmental Science. Sir is an expert and a very experienced and accomplished personality. When I say experienced, he has a vast experience of 22 years of teaching and research. It is astonishing to say that he has been awarded
Conservation of Wetland అనే ఒక సెమినార్ ఉంది. ఆ సెమినార్ లో
problem. Yeah.
Sujit Kumar, unmute yourself. Mr. Sujit Kumar, please mute yourself.
Okay. Sir, nearly 15 PhD scholars have been awarded under him, and many PG MSc are working for his dissertation under his guidance. Sir has done his PhD on ecological importance and social economical aspects of a very important mangrove, that is Coringo mangrove. And he has presented national and international research papers, which is a very good accomplishment, I can say. And more than 80 conferences, national as well as international conferences, he has attended. And I'm very delighted to inform that he has received best research paper in an environmental international conference at Houston, Texas, at USA. And sir has published 2 books also to his credit. And he is also a member of very prestigious institutes and organizations like Pollution Control Board and Indian Science Congress, etc. So we are very lucky to have you, sir, here with us. So I welcome you on this virtual platform. And so here we have Dr. Pandu Brahmaji Rao. So please unmute me.
Sir, can you please unmute?
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for a nice introduction given by Madam. I am very happy to participate in this national webinar and also the organized by the Koti Women's College, Hyderabad. Generally, the Professor M. Vijayatulata Garu, Principal, and Dr. P. Shailaja Garu, Vice Principal, and Dr. P.R. Shushma Garu, Convener of the national webinar, and co-conveners Dr. Yasmin and Sai Bhavani Garu, and also the participants who are very interestingly, the topic is related to the Wetland Day. Every year, February 2nd, is organized in a grand manner to give a awareness as well as the awakening of the public, the importance and significance of the wetlands present in our nature, not only in our India, throughout the world, the wetlands significance and the wetlands importance and the role of importance can be given in this day. So the wetland ecosystems are very important as well as they played a major role in almost all the nature conservation and also the nature which is available in and around of the our surroundings. So in these circumstances, we are very happy to aware related to the some of the issues, particularly the role of conservation in nature conservation, role of wetlands in nature conservation. So generally the nature is one of the significant, which is consisting of the different ecosystems. But coming to the wetland ecosystem is a powerful ecosystem which gives a main as well as the essential for the improving the biodiversity, particularly to giving a excellent progenies coming from the different organisms, that is the almost all aquatic as well as the terrestrial, some of the terrestrial organisms, these wetlands can play a breeding grounds. So this is the significant understanding. If the wetlands are not available in and around our surroundings, we are not able to see the some of the species. That's why the breeding grounds of the any organisms, particularly to aquatic systems as well as the wetland ecosystems. So the presently we are facing a severe threat on amphibians, because amphibians like frogs and at the same time some of the reptiles, due to lack of a wetland ecosystems, their breeding grounds are disappearing, and also they have giving a vast deteriorating their breeding grounds and leads to the severe threat to their species. So that's why the amphibians presently we have seen so many amphibian species are disappearing. That's why one of the present situation we can visualizing through the distress as well as the disappearing of the wetlands in and around of our systems. So that's why this is one of the prime observed phenomena due to lack of the wetland ecosystems or a disappearing of the wetland systems. We are not seeing the breeding grounds of the amphibians. So just I am sharing. Sashi. Window.
ఓపెన్ చేసి పెట్టారు విండో మీద ఓపెన్ చేయండి ముందు మ్యూట్ చేయి F5 కొట్టండి F5 కనిపిస్తున్నా ఓకే ఒకసారి స్క్రీన్ షేర్ చేయండి స్క్రీన్ షేర్ చేయండి విండో ట్రై చేయండి ఎవరు స్క్రీన్ ఏంటది
ఎంటైర్ స్క్రీన్
Hello? Hello? Sir,
Madam.
shall I present the presentation?
Okay, madam. You can present.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the wetlands play a significant importance. Particularly, the wetlands are the low-lying areas. Low-lying areas means generally where the land is below the ground levels. That low-lying areas are wetted with a excess water or excess rainwater is imprinting into the ground or a soil, so that soil seems to be a wet. So this type of wetlands are gradually improve their water holding capacity, and water holding capacity is excess, and the very shallow water is present on the surface of the ground, that is called as the wetlands. And at the same time, the wetlands are very highly nutrients, as well as it is consisting of the much more minerals rather than the nutrients. So generally in soil, we can be seen nutrient levels are much present, that is the nitrates, sulfates and phosphates are present in the normal soils, whereas in coming to the wetland systems, the mineral composition, which is a highly dominated, and as well as these minerals are a very essential for almost all the organisms, and also giving a sufficient mineral enrichment is present with the help of the wetland ecosystems. So that's why the role of wetlands in nature conservation, which is essential and understood with the help of the different concepts that is observed into the ecosystem, as well as the ecological principles, that is the interrelationship between the organisms, living organisms and non-living organisms, and also the energy transformations that can be observed in our surrounding wetlands. So particularly if the wetland is going to be disappearing due to lack of the water holding capacity of the soil nature, or due to lack of the water holding capacity with the waste deposited in some land areas, automatically the disappearing of the lands can be seen. Particularly in your villages, each and every village, there is a specific wetland system or a wetland ecosystem is present on the end of the village, but that almost all the wetland systems are presently, they are solid waste dumping yards. So we are disappearing the wetland ecosystems in rural areas as well as the villages, and also some of the wetlands are turned into a graveyards in their villages. So the wetlands in our own hand, we are giving a disasters as well as the disappearing due to our needs, as well as our area is spreading for different developmental activities. So the wetlands significance is one of the important to give awareness as well as the awakening of the public, the importance and also the significance and the environmental issues related to the wetland, and also the significance of the biodiversity importance can be seen with the help of these wetland systems. So the understanding of wetlands is not only the environmental significance, and at the same time we can be evolve with the different kinds of living organisms. It is a habitat. So the special habitat is also observed in the wetland system. The special habitat means generally why the migratory birds are entering into the wetland system. That is one of the understanding situation. If the migratory bird is coming far away from other places to the selected wetland system, particularly for their breeding grounds only. So why the breeding ground? They came from long away and settled in the wetland system. That can understood This is one of the significant mineral composition as well as the food source, and also the breeding as well as the hatching importance in the wet system. That is a very convenient as well as the improving their progeny with a safe and secure as well as the availability of the mineral composition which is present in wetland system, that gives the essential growth and development of the egg, and also the hatching of the egg is feasible in the particular zones only. So that's why they can naturally they can select and identify their importance of the breeding ground, and every year they can come and hatch their particular places. Generally in Kolleru Lake and Pulikat Lake and some other lakes, they can be selected, and different varieties of the birds, aves can be coming, and they can select these areas as a hatching grounds as well as the breeding grounds. So like that way, the low-lying areas as well as the mineral composition which is present in the wetland system, that's why the enthusiastic the migratory birds can be coming from these areas. Next slide. So particularly coming to this, every year the UN is giving a theme based on the threatenings as well as the disappearing as well as the distress can be observed throughout the world. The wetland percentage is going to be decreasing day by day. So present there, the theme is given wetland action for people and nature. So every individual as well as the community level actions are very essential to enrich the wetland systems and also to enrich the nature. That is a very importance. Then only the wetlands are going to be preserved as well as they can give the available natural resources going to be uplift for the future generations. So that's why wetlands action for people and nature is one of the present theme, and stress to reduce the stressing, the need of the taking action by the government as well as the non-governmental organizations to ensure the conservation and sustainable use of wetlands for human and planetary health. So the planetary health is a very important. So the planetary health significance is mainly based on the wetland conservation only. The wetland conservation is also improve the natural resources as well as the biodiversity, and also the to reduce the climate change conditions, and also to reduce the increasing of the sea levels. These are all the factors can be influencing if we are supposed to conserve the wetland system, then we can be basically depending. This theme is a prompt understanding of every individual. So this is the theme which is given by the UN, that can actions as well as the resolutions can be take place locally as well as the globally to enrich the wetland conservation as well as the management, to improve their quality as well as the ecosystem surroundings. That is a very, very important. So the powerful ecosystem is a wetland system. So introduction to wetlands. Wetlands are the land areas that are saturated or flooded with water, either permanently or seasonally. So wetlands, some of the wetlands are permanently seen or observed, whereas some of the wetlands are seasonally appearing. So like that way, water saturated with rainwater or flooded water. So the flooded water is significantly seen seasonally, whereas rainwater holding are saturated that are permanent wetlands. So generally in some wetland systems are permanently appearing in and around of our areas, whereas seasonally we can also observe some of the wetlands. They can be found in seasonal manner. And inland wetlands include marshes, ponds, lakes, fens, rivers, floodplains and swamps. Coastal wetlands include saltwater marshes, estuaries, mangroves, lagoons, and even coral reefs. So these are all the different types of wetlands. So marshes, ponds, lakes, and lakes are very common in Indian continent, whereas coming to the fens as well as the floodplains and swamps are observed in the seacoast areas. Like that way, we have different freshwater wetlands as well as the saline wetlands is also observed. So this is the major significant types of the wetlands can be seen. And also the man-made wetlands are fish ponds and other are man-made wetlands. Fish ponds, rice paddies, and salt pans are human-made wetlands. So the difference between the man-made wetlands as well as the natural wetlands is the only in man-made wetlands the productivity which is essentially covered in these areas, particularly for the sake of fish, for the sake of the rice, or for the sake of the salt farming, we can be used wetlands for a seasonal as well as for the productivity improvement that can be seen in these areas. Next one. Next. So land that is saturated with water, generally where the water is saturated. So that is one of the importance. Everywhere the water is not supposed to be saturated. In some places the water is saturated, only depending upon the holding of the soil moisture conservation, soil moisture levels. And so specifically the soil moisture is dependent in different types of soils. So if the saturated water and as well the water holding capacity and percolation of water in the soil, that is mainly depending upon the low laying area as well as the texture of the soil that can be seen, the saturation of the water can be seen. So this is particularly how it can be improves the wetland development as well as the wetland significance that can be given, that can be studied by the different areas in and around as well as the local level as well as the global level. So already we have permanent wetlands as well as the seasonal wetlands. Some of the seasonal wetlands are specifically saturated with rainwater, and some of the temporary is flooded wetlands can be seen due to the flooded. So this process can be formed as the wetland system. And poorly drained soils and hydrophytic vegetation and various kinds of biological activity which are adapted to the wetland environment. So this is the specific definition can be seen in anywhere. So the land that is saturated with water long enough to promote wetland or aquatic processes as indicated by the poorly drained soil or hydrophytic vegetation and various kinds of biological activity which are adapted to the wet environment. So that's why these wetlands are called as the powerful ecosystem which can give the sufficient improvement of the any organism as well as the any natural resources which can be dependent on this wetland systems only. Next one. So already SAR is told the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands of the international importance, especially waterfowl habitat is an international treaty for the conservation of sustainable use of wetlands. It is also known as the conservation of wetlands. It is named after the city of Ramsar in Iran, where the convention was signed in 1971. From 1971 onwards, we are continuously this wetland day is celebrating for the improving as well as the conservation and also the importance to sustain the wetlands which are present in and around the world. We can give the significance importance. The importance can enrich the wetland systems that leads to the sustainable development. So in 1971, this convention is also identified so many places, the wetland systems present in and around of the world. One of our Kolleru Lake is also in the list of the Ramsar conventions. The wetland ecosystems is placed. Kolleru Lake is very important. So like that way, the 2nd February each year is a World Wetland Day, is raise global awareness about the vital role of wetlands for people and our planet. That is very important. That's why we are celebrating the Wetland Conservation Day on February 2nd for every year, which is given by the base theme that can be developed by the United Nations. The United Nations theme is specifically observed to identify the threats as well as the severe problems related to the wetland system that can be studied by the different research activities which are done in and around of the world. That's why the identified problems can be keep in mind, and they can take it as one of the important and significant theme can be developed by the United Nations. Next one. So the facts about wetlands, I am already given some of the facts. Wetlands are typically low-lying areas. So typically low-lying areas means generally the flooded water or rainwater is supposed to stagnated in some places. That places is nothing but a low-lying. If the low-lying area is having the water holding in some time duration, after time duration, the low-lying area is converted as a wetland. So specifically, that type of wetlands is understood where the river flows towards the sea, and where the sea is giving an inundation towards the river. That areas is also called as the estuaries. But the wetlands is not like that. The drains which are excess water in and around of the drains, the drains can be goes in different parts of the land that can be covered different areas in and around of the land low laying areas that can be turned into a wetland system. So that's why wetlands are typically low laying areas which are excess rain as well as the draining of the flood, which convert or which turns into low-lying areas that can be called as a wetland. And they can be a natural or man-made. So sometimes wetland systems is also man-made system, man-made wetlands is present, generally in paddy fields. Paddy fields, that is essential to keep the wet continuously up to the productivity is coming, so they can keep the crop in a wet system. And they can be a coastal or inland. Generally, coastal erosion as well as the increasing of the sea level. This is coastal erosion of the soil can be seen. And actually, in coastal regions, we can also see there are several hatching as well as the breeding grounds for turtles and other reptiles. If the soil is moisture, holding the moisture content, then only they have the breeding ground. If the soil is not supposed to hold the water, automatically the breeding grounds are going to be disappear. So that's why there are several coastal organisms are not capable to produce their significant understandings. So that's why we have seen this coastal inlands also. Next, floodplains, swamps, and marshes and mangroves. These are all the significantly understood in our wetland system. So wetlands can contain a freshwater or saltwater or brackish, a combination of the two. This is also seen. A combination of two means I am already told the river is merging to the sea, and the sea is going to be inundated. That can be seen. In Kolleru Lake, we have seen the Upputeru area is a one combination of the both brackish water as well as the fresh water that can be seen in the Kolleru Lake. Next slide. Next slide. Madam, slide full fledged full screen better, madam. This slide. Okay, next slide. Madam, full screen better. There are operators. Back. Hello? Madam, connect all slides back. Just take focus back. Okay, some important wetlands in India. We have seen there are several wetland systems. That is a Astumodi wetlands, Bitrakanika mangroves, and Bose wetlands, and Chandratel wetlands, and Chilaka Lake, and Dipor Beel. Like that way, there are several wetlands can be seen in our Indian continent. They are played a very significant importance, and each and every lake or a wetland system that can be seen in and around of the our areas. Specifically, this some important wetlands are very organic rich, that is a greater than 40 centimeters of the peat can be present in the wetlands. So peat soils are specifically they are eroded in different kinds of biological activity can be done in the soil. Then they can form as a peat. That can be peat consisting the highest nutrient values, that is the nitrates can be present, and also that is a leads to the production of the several minerals due to the peat formation. So the bogs and fens are called as the peatlands. And whereas the mineral wetlands are the swamps, marshes, and these are all called the mineral wetlands. So you have understood this one. Only bogs and fens as called as the peat wetlands, whereas the mineral wetlands are the swamps, marshes, and shallow open water. These are all the mineral wetlands. Next one. So these are the marshes which can be seen, and swamps like this way in the forest areas is can be seen, and shallow open waters that is can be seen. Fens and bogs is also observed in different areas. So automatically these are specifically classified, and some of the wetland systems is present in some continents, and some of the wetlands are present in a specific continents where the water holding as well as the water logging is not feasible. Then there is also, we have seen some bogs, that is called as the bogs and fence. Next one. So bogs, peat covered wetlands. Wetland is isolated from groundwater and low nutrients, and water and peat usually acidic here. So why the water and peat is usually acidic means, so the groundwater as well as the rainwater is also not up to the mark of the alkalinity. That's why here the acidic nature of the wetland can be seen. And it dominated by the sphagnum mosses with the tree, shrub or treeless vegetation cover that can be seen into the box. Next one. Fence. This is also a peat covered wetland. Wetland exposed to groundwater, where previous one is not exposed to groundwater. This is exposed to groundwater, and more nutrients than the box, and less acidic. Greater variety of plants and then box, grass, meadows, shrubs, and trees is present in the fence. Next one. Next. Swamps, non-peat forming wetland, waterlogged soils, often with standard waters, and vegetation is dense and coniferous or deciduous trees or tall herbs and thickets and water-loving plants. The swamps are. So these are all the specific features of the swamps. Next one. So marshes, non-peat forming wetlands and waterlogged soil in plant rooting zone, often with withstanding water, and nutrient-rich water offering greater and plant diversity emergent, and reeds and rushes and sedges is also present in the marshes. Surface water level may be fluctuated seasonally. These are all seen into the marshes. So next one. So these are all the types of wetlands. Generally, some of the peat-based wetlands and non-peat-based wetlands. Basically, there are some of them are highly nutrient, and some of the mineral nutrients are enriched, and specifically low-lying areas that can be seen. And Wetland degradation leads to the climate change. That is also I have told in the first starting. Why that leads to the climate change? So specifically increasing of temperature and increasing of carbon dioxide is the concept of the climatic change. If the wetlands are going to be disappearing, automatically the increasing of the carbon dioxide concentration released by the excess carbon dioxide can be released by the other than activities like a photosynthesis can be utilized the carbon dioxide, whereas the other activities emissions can be coming from the industries or emissions coming from the automobiles and emissions coming from the different sources. They are absorbed by the wetlands rather than the normal tree canopy. So that's why the increasing of carbon dioxide as well as the increasing of temperature is due to degrading of the wetland systems is improving the climate change is going to be observed. And sea level and coastal erosion is also observed with the help of the wetlands are disappearing. So the wetlands are disappearing, these two adverse impacts in nature, that is the sea level increase and coastal erosion is also observed. If the coastal erosion is observed, I'll already tell to you the breeding grounds of the organisms, marine organisms is disappearing. That's why this is also seen into the significant understanding of this one. Like that way, decreasing of the main wetlands, which causes the biodiversity. So the biodiversity significant is understood by the improving of the wetland conservation. Then only we have giving a scope for the breeding as well as the hatching grounds which are present in wetland systems. Then only we can be observed. The next slide. Next slide. So automatically these are some of the avian species which are present in and around of the wetland system. That is the Indian golden oriole, which is a very prominent bird present where the wet condition is there. Next one. So this is a shallow open waters, non-peat forming wetlands, locally known as the ponds or slots. Standing water, often transiting between the lake and marshes. Fewer emergent plants, but submerged plants may be present. Water depth usually less than 2 meters. This is called as the shallow open waters. Next. So migratory birds, which are very interestingly, and they are love the wetland systems. Generally, every wetlands, these are the common birds can be appearing due to their seasons for the sake of the hatching as well as the breeding of their progeny. The first one is the painted stork, which is commonly in Kolleru Lake. Next one. So the importance of wetlands are among the most productive ecosystem in the world compared to the rainforests and coral reefs. So they provide rich habitats for the immense variety of species of microbes, plants, insects, amphibians, reptiles, birds, fishes, and mammals. So where the terrestrial ecosystem or aquatic systems is different, coming to the wetlands, the microbial population is a much more heavy rather than the any other than the atmosphere, hydrosphere or lithosphere. The role of microbes is played a prominent in wetland systems rather than the any system. So the microbial resources is presently using several important observations. So the isolation and identification of microbes from the wetland soils is prominently acting as one of the basic bioremediation as well as the phytoremediation and microbial remediation that can be done with the help of the microbes. So the zooplankton or phytoplankton, which is giving a scope to improve the microbial population or microbial diversity in wetland ecosystems, rather than none other systems is not supposed to provide the microbes. Whereas the plants is also specific to the wetland ecosystems, those who can grow and improve their progeny of different kind of aquatic plants. Some of them up rooted to the bottom, some of the floating, some of the are semi-floating plants which are appearing in wetlands rather than the normal aquatic ecosystems. And insects is also one of the habitat for the wetlands. Particularly, there are different kinds of insects. Only they can survive in wet systems. If completely the water is available, they are not supposed to be survive. Like that way, amphibians, I am already told, and reptiles is also told, and birds, that is specifically migratory, and fish and other mammals is also, they love the wetland ecosystems. Many species of birds and mammals rely on wetlands for food, water, shelter, especially during the migration and breeding times. So this is the importance of the wetland that can be shown in this simple slide. Next one. Next one. So uses of wetlands. Water management is useful with the help of the wetlands only. Think of a wetland as a huge sponge. So generally it can be, wetland can act in the nature as a sponge-like structure. Excess water can be absorbed. If the water is essential, they can be evaporated. Like that way, this is like a huge sponge-like system that can be observed in this one. And think a wetland, wetlands are store water when it is an excess, and releases it is to be a ground during the dry periods. Dry areas, that in summer, generally we have seen the significance of water from wetland system only. And this helps also recharge and discharge of the groundwater. And to assist the flood control is also help with the help of the wetlands only. To reduce the momentum of water as it flows to the river or a stream, thereby reducing a soil erosion. They are also important to the nutrient cycle. So like that way, these are all the uses of the wetland systems. Next one. So there are several importance of the uses of the wetlands: agriculture productivity, craft materials, timber production, medicinal plants, fishing, hunting. Like that way, we have seen in these wetland systems. And wetlands provide a livelihood, so automatically this is some of the sources. They can also recreation spaces. We can call it as ecotourism presently. The ecotourism is observed in wetland areas. Particularly, there is a tent houses, as well as the observing the nature with a wetland system that is developing in almost all of the world. Particularly in India, particularly in Andhra Pradesh, the Kondakarla Lake, as well as the Kolleru Lake, and some of the Koringa mangroves area, which is also a wetland, coastal wetland. These are all the ecotourism places which useful for the aesthetic senses. Next one. So threats to the wetlands. These are anthropogenic threats can be seen. For the first one is the development activities, draining outlet and construction activities. Particularly, they are lead to the threat them from the lakes and ponds, and diverting the water flows, and pollution, sand and gravel mining, and global warming, acid rain. These are all the threats to the observed can be seen. So coming to the threats, activities, once we are supposed to see, in India, 153 lakh hectares of the wetlands are present in total. These are occupied 4.7% of the overall land. So this 153 lakh hectares of the wetland is presently going to be decreasing and gradually there is due to the developmental activities. Particularly once we are supposed to observe in urbanization leads to the depleting the natural main wetland systems. So this is also calculated by the IUCN. So in Mumbai, there is 71% of the wetland systems are disappearing due to the construction activities in Mumbai. And the next one is the Ahmedabad. We have seen the 57% of the wetlands are disappearing due to the developmental activities or construction activities. Like that way, in cities as well as the towns and urban areas, the commonly available wetland systems are disappearing. So these threats are going to be reduced because if the wetland already told it can act as a sponge-like structure, if the sponge is not present in any urban areas, automatically that is going to be devastating, and also that is a flood-prone area. Like that way, we can observe. Recently, Kerala floods is also, that is one of the significant observation can be seen due to lack of a wetlands rather than the river ecosystems. That is going a major damage in Kerala. Next one. So there are threats to the natural disasters like hurricanes and floods, that is common. Overgrazing by wildlife. So generally the overgrazing by wildlife, this is one of the prominent importance. Grazing control is not supposed to in our hands, but excess level of the grass can be produced in forest areas. If that grass is not supposed to be controlled, due to lack of the excess water, water holding is not up to the mark. If the water holding is much more high, that a grass growing is normally observed. If the water holding is not like that way, the grazing is much more high. So presently we have seen due to lack of wetland systems in Australia, we have a tremendous forest fires, which can give the major threat in Australia. That is one of the important observation can be seen due to lack of the wetland systems in Australia. Major fire of forest fire can be observed. So these wetlands are present, automatically the forest fires are going to be controlled, and overgrazing is also reduced in some of the forest areas. Next one. So this Ramsar Convention, I am already told, the intergovernmental treaty is a very much essential to play a prominent importance as well as the conservation, as well as the management of the wetland systems, which are essential, particularly to maintain the breathing grounds, as well as the excess level of water is going to be a conservative in a good manner. That is discussed by the Ramsar Convention in 1971, and presently the UN government, United Nations is also playing a prominent role, and some of the observations can be done continuously after this Ramsar Convention. Next one. So this is one of the mission, the convention and mission, and history and developmental activities can be also seen. Wetlands and sustainable development goals, that is the interdisciplinary approach, how the wetlands are added to the sustainable development goals, and a critical role of wetlands in attainment of these sustainable development goals, that is seen, and designated and management, classification and evaluation of wetlands, international importance that can be given by this Ramsar Convention. Next one. So the conservation of our wetlands, organize an events like a community walk, bike, or run for wetlands, plan a wetland cleanup day. Generally, the cleanup activities are done by the both government as well as the non-government organization. Excess level of helps which are giving an adverse impact, then only we can clean the wetland system. Organize a photo or a essay competition for students, that is a very important for conservation of wetlands. Next one. So the public awareness, share the outreach material on your website, social media, and newsletters or bulletin boards, etc. in a wetland systems. That is also very much essential, that can be done by the everywhere. Next. So like this, the importance of the wetlands and types of wetlands and the role of wetlands to conserve the nature is a very much essential. Not only conserve the nature, our livelihood as well as our population growth is also much more dependent on wetland ecosystems. If the wetlands are not present in our surroundings, we can feel excess temperature, we can feel air pollution, excess carbon dioxide levels. We are not supposed to see the different kinds of birds are not able to see in our surroundings. These are all the common observation by every individual. That's why the wetland ecosystems play a powerful ecosystems and also a special habitats for the so many kinds of the organisms. Then only we can survive. And if the wetlands are not in our surroundings, so that's why we can conserve as well as manage our wetland systems for the future generations to keep the nature in a sustainable manner. Thank you for giving this opportunity to share some of the knowledge related to the wetlands in our country like that way. Next. Okay. Actually, my work is also in the mangrove ecosystems as well as one of the scholar is also done the Kolleru Lake conservation as well as the management practices. Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, who is working in St. Teresa College. Like that way, the major works is particularly bioremediation works is also from the wetland ecosystems. That's why I have some of the case studies is also observed. But sake of the students as well as the public, I am giving a general significance of the wetland conservation. Thank you for giving this opportunity to share the knowledge among you. And also thanks to the organizers to giving a opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brahmaji sir. It was a wonderful session. You have given us so many important points on the importance of wetlands, different types of wetlands, and I think it was a well-curated session. Overall, you gave us a comprehensive idea about what wetlands are and why should we should safeguard them. And I think the wonderful take-home message is how to create awareness. You said to post these outreach materials on social media and institutional website. I think that's a wonderful message. On behalf of Greenbelt and all the organizers, we assure you that we will also do that with permission from our principal and vice principal. We will try to create one outpost on our website to create public awareness. That's a nice idea, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Sushma ma'am to welcome our principal for the session.
Good afternoon, one and all. Madam is yet to join. We'll just wait for 2 minutes.
Okay. Meanwhile, if we have any queries and questions from the participants, you are please requested to ask, sir. You can unmute yourself and ask, or you can either post the question in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much. But I have a small question, sir. In today, mostly we can see in Telangana state or other state, most of the wetlands they are converting into this. We can say under like construction, or maybe they are planning for some infrastructure. All these kind of things. How it is affecting to the earth and other forms of resources?
Really, madam, urbanization is disappearing the wetland systems, particularly containing to the Hyderabad city as well as the Warangal also. So actually the scope of the wetland in rocky areas as well as the urban areas is only feasible with the help of the very few pockets of the low-lying areas. That is also the soil is not capable to holding the moisture content. So that's why in this scenario, the developmental activities or a concrete jungle is going to improving in almost all the areas. So definitely the government as well as the public approach is essential to develop some of the areas which are essential to keep as a wetland system. Previously we have seen in Hyderabad there is several lake systems which is giving a wetland system. So that wetland system is giving a significant importance, and also the public is supposed to conserve the wetland systems. Then only the feasibility can be seen. And coming to the Hussain Sagar Lake is also previously that is abandoned with a very pungent smell. Then only the water quality is improving with the help of the establishment of the ETPs. More than 14 ETPs can be constructed to maintain the water quality in Hussain Sagar Lake. And also the rainwater loading is also seen in Hyderabad city. Like that, the case studies are going to continuing to manage the wetlands as well as to conserve the wetlands, and also to develop the wetland systems which are essential in urban areas. That is one of the important issue is going to discuss it in a policy making.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question from Ms. Sushila. I think she wishes to ask how are wetlands affected in drought and various other disaster conditions?
Okay. Generally in drought areas where we have seen the water availability or water scarcity. Drought area means generally the scarcity of water or availability of water or accessibility of water is not supposed to seen where there is only the rainfall, and the rainfall is utilized for the different purposes. But coming to the land, saturation of the rainwater is not observed in some pockets of the these areas. So automatically the main importance that can be developed where the wastewater or the rainwater is also run with the waste that is the land areas, wasteland areas. Then only we have the capability to develop the wetland system. That may be a wastewater or any type of water that is also giving a scope to develop the wetland system, that is giving a breathing to the soil as well as the giving to the scope for the other activities in that areas.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from the participants? You can please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Madam, you have the green belt club, I think, green belt.
Yes,
club.
sir. Yes, sir.
Generally in green belt previously we have the social forestry. In the social forestry area, we have presently we are green belt developments. Particularly this is essential in metros as well as the cities and urban areas. Generally green belt in industrial areas, we are proposed land is available, but in cities also you are supposed to demand the municipal corporations as well as the panchayatis. Some of the particular areas where the wasteland is observed, that can be developed by some of the NGOs as well as the institutions can keep a major role to develop a green belt. Generally, we can develop the green belt that is also giving a scope for the development of the wetland system.
Yes, sir.
That is one of the understood by the policymakers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is a good advice, sir. We are also looking forward in that direction only. Okay. Even the barren lands which were not being utilized earlier, as you said, because of these heavy rains and other things, it is giving us an opportunity to convert such lands into wetlands, and we expect that almost everyone should become a custodian, and then if we take step forward in that direction, it will be really, in terms of conservation, it will really boost up the conservation aspects. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for the
okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You have given us so many take-home messages. One about the outreach activities, two about converting this wastelands into green belt activities. Thank you for all the inputs. I now request Sushma ma'am to introduce our principal, Professor Vijayalata ma'am, to the participants. Over to you, Sushma ma'am.
Yeah. Good afternoon. It is my honor to welcome our beloved principal, Professor M. Vijayalata ma'am, who always inspire us to take up the activities in the direction of environmental protection. Under her stewardship and unflagging support, Greenbelt is able to restore and conserve natural resources of the campus. We are very much thankful to you, ma'am, for such a gesture rendered by you, and we expect the same in future also.
Thank
Now,
you, ma'am. I now request our principal, Professor Vijayalata ma'am, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Sushma. Thank you, Jyoti. It's indeed a pleasure to be a part of this program. Actually, I was busy with my auditors and all. That is the reason I couldn't join the meeting. I missed the lecture by two eminent professors of Acharya Nagarjuna University. I hope all the students have got more information regarding this wetlands, and I thank Department of Botany and Genetics for conducting this Wetland Day program. Coming to the speakers, Kalicharan IAS Secretary, Telangana State Biodiversity Board, and AVSS Swami, Head Department of Environmental Sciences, Acharya Nagarjuna University, Dr. P. Bammaji Rao, Chairman BOS, Department of Environmental Sciences, Acharya Nagarjuna University. I thank you all, sir, for sparing your time and helping our students to understand what wetland day is and what is the importance of wetlands. And I feel that because of this inputs what you are giving, our students will be motivated and encouraged to promote these wetlands. And I would like to thank the convener, Dr. Sushma, who is an asset to the college. And because of her, our college is becoming more greener, and many students are getting this awareness about the green belt and how we should conserve our heritage trees, and also about the wetlands, and also water harvesting. So not only that, the Greenbelt team and the students of Greenbelt are being encouraged to take up many programs in the college. And I would like to thank Jyoti and Rupashri for also helping the Greenbelt and encouraging the students to do all the activities and under this Greenbelt. And I would like to thank co-conveners Sai Bhavani and Mehtab, who have taken all the initiatives to make this program a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for acknowledging, and all our efforts are fruitful only with your support and the stamina that you give all of us in terms of your words, your composure, and then your by being yourself as a strength to all of us and the college. Thank you so much. And I thank both the speakers for the valuable inputs that they have given. And I'm sure under the guidance of Sushma ma'am, Greenbelt is going to make the college more greener and a better space to live in and study.
Thank you very much, Principal Ma'am and Dr. Jyoti.
Thank you.
For the
Thank
nice
you.
words.
To conclude the session, I hand over it to Dr. Rupashri.
One second.
Yeah. Yes,
One
ma'am.
second. We should say that we have got an overwhelming response. More than 700 participants have joined within very short time. And that is really amazing as far as this program is concerned.
And I think that also shows how the people are actually keen about conserving environment and nature. So that's a really good step, and we should keep conducting more such events to create awareness on environmental protection and sustainability. Thank you, ma'am. I now request, Dr. Rupashri to give a formal vote of thanks.
Hello, good day, madam.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Madam, I kindly explain about the sacred groves in the role of environment.
Sir, can you be a little clear, Nagarajan, sir?
Madam, in every village we have sacred groves.
Okay, sacred groves. Okay.
Their role in environment.
Sir, I think the speakers are with us. Either Brahmaji sir or Swami sir, there is a question we have from Nagarajan sir or even Sushma ma'am.
Yeah,
can
I
answer
will.
this.
Okay. Sir, as you said, it is really a good question. And traditionally, we have our tradition and culture, particularly the Indian tradition and culture, if we see, we have lot of sacred groves. And in the sacred groves, in the sense that it is one of the strategies which have been adopted by our, the ancestors, in order to overcome felling of the trees and all. Likewise, this sacred grove has been initiated. That is what I feel. And these sacred groves particularly, they have almost lot of importance, in the sense that economic as well as ecological importance is there for sacred groves. And there are even papers also like Malluru Gutta, which is there near Etur Nagaram. Some of them have reported about the the flora which are there near the sacred groves. Likewise, even we are taking up certain aspects in Telangana region with regard to the sacred groves that are situated in various districts of Telangana state. And as we all know that every plant virtually has some importance, even the medicinal value also. In that direction, it is not only protecting our heritage and culture, but also we are indirectly protecting the environment. And it is one of the best ways for restoration of the environment, sir. So if you are satisfied, it's okay. Or else if you have anything in specific, you can ask, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot, madam. But at the same time, every villages which are merged with the urban areas, we were losing the sacred groves and
Yes,
the lakes and the greeneries.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is the our. And here, sir, every individual, if they become custodians, then it will be very easy at this at individual level to safeguard our environment, sir. Because nature, it is giving us everything. So one has to flourish through nature and even cherish through nature also. I expect that every individual should become a custodian and safeguard on the whole, sir. That is one thing. It is at every individual level we should take care, sir.
Yes, madam. For that, the education institutions have to play the main role, madam, from the school level to create
Yes,
the
sir.
behavioral change.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot, madam.
Yes, sir. Outreach programs has to be conducted, sir, and even we are organizing from our university also. I expect that in that direction, so that should become we a custodian and some awareness. Already it is a known fact, but the thing is one thing one has to every individual level we should implement things, sir. That is lacking.
Yes, madam.
And if we
for that, the education institutions have to play the main role, madam, from the school level to create the behavioral change.
The students,
Thanks a lot, madam.
particularly school going ones, outreach programs who are the the future generations from our university also. I expect that in that direction.
Thank you, Nagarajan sir, for your inputs. And I think today's webinar is one such outreach activity where we wanted to create awareness to all the people. And as just our convener mentioned, we have an overwhelming response from people, which shows that there is a keen interest among public and student community to learn more about the conservation of nature. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your inputs. Thank you, Sushma ma'am, for the elaborate answers. Yeah. Thank you, Nagarajan sir, for your inputs. And I think today's webinar is one such outreach activity where we wanted to create awareness to all the people. And as just our convener mentioned, we have an overwhelming response from people, which shows that there is a keen interest among public and student community to learn more about the conservation of nature. Thank you, sir. There is a question from Dasharath sir. I think already this has been answered by Swami sir. That the Biodiversity Department and EPA both are actively involved in wetland protection and development. That has been answered, I think, by Swami sir. He emphasized on the importance of Biodiversity Department also. Participants are kindly requested to turn on their video.
Dr. Jyoti. inform principal madam and vice principal madam also regarding this.
Okay.
Dr. Jyoti, are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm calling.
Okay.
Yes.
Jyoti madam, you are muted.
I'm talking to principal, ma'am, not to the audience. Ma'am, principal and vice principal both are here on the screen. Bhavani, ma'am, your video is off now.
Okay. Even
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. No, Madam, sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Done. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I now request Rupashri at last to propose a formal vote of thanks if there are no more?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Rupashri, over to you.
Thank you, Jyoti. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. On behalf of the Green Belt and the entire team of organizers, I take this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks for this one-day national webinar on conservation of wetlands conducted in collaboration with Telangana State Biodiversity Board. To start with, I express my sincere thanks to Shri Kalicharan Khattade, IAS Secretary, Telangana State Biodiversity Board, for gracing the occasion as the chief guest and sharing his views about the importance of wetland conservation and development of sustainable management strategies to preserve these biological supermarkets. I must mention our deep sense of gratitude to Dr. Swami, Head, Department of Environmental Sciences, Acharya Nagarjuna University, for accepting our invitation as a resource person and giving us a deep insight of wetlands and highlighting their importance as cradles of biological diversity as well as natural filters to wastewater management. I'm also thankful to Dr. P. Brahmaji Rao, Chairman BOS Environmental Science, Acharya Nagarjuna University, our second speaker, for his informative lecture on the role of wetlands in nature conservation. Your lecture has given us a deeper understanding of different wetland ecosystems, their importance as the most productive niches harboring different organisms, and the need to conserve these wetlands. We also highly appreciate the active help of Dr. Shilpi Sharma from Telangana State Biodiversity Board for facilitating the collaboration for this webinar. She has been constantly helping us with her support and inputs all along. An event like this requires a strong backup from a motivating and dedicated team of organizers. I extend my thanks to our beloved principal, Professor Vijulata ma'am, who is always enthusiastically supportive of all events conducted by the Greenbelt and the college. She is a big support and driving force for all the activities. My heartfelt thanks to our Vice Principal, Dr. Shailaja ma'am, for her sweet words of encouragement and guidance. I sincerely thank Dr. Sushma, the convener of this webinar, coordinator of Greenbelt and Head Department of Botany, for coming, for meticulously planning and coordinating these sessions, contacting the speakers and arranging this webinar. I thank the organizing committee members and the technical support team for all the successful conduct of this event. Last but not the least, a big thanks to all the students, research scholars, faculty and participants without whom we could not have conducted this program. With a take-home message,
to create awareness towards preserving the wetland ecosystems. I once again thank all of you for joining us in this webinar and making it a success. Thanks to one and all. Have a good day.
Hello.
Yes, Sushma ma'am, we can close the.
Yes. Here, it is the effort which has been, that is the technical support has been provided by Dr. Sai Bhavani's daughter, Tanishka. And I would like to thank her and okay. Thank you, one and all.
Certificates will be sent to your registered email IDs in 2 or 3 days, sir, because we have a huge response. We have to consolidate the feedback forms and then we will send the certificates to all the students and participants who have submitted the feedback. And it will be sent to your registered email ID. Thank you. We will now close the session. Thank you all. Bhavani ma'am, you can please end the call for everybody.
Once again, thank you very much, all the Greenbelt team, Dr. Jyoti, Dr. Rupasri, Dr. Mehtab Yasmin, Dr. Sai Bhavani, Dr. Hajira, Dr. Prabhakar, and Dr. Rohini. Thank you once again. Right.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Bhavani ma'am, maybe you can end the call for everybody because it's in recording mode. You can end it for everyone.
We will do that.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your support and making this webinar a huge success. Thank you.